Hello, good afternoon, and welcome everyone to the live program of Homestates Group. My name is Nicole Tim. I'm the host. I'm also the managing director of Homestates. Following on our previous discussions about migrating to Australia, different type of migration, we have received a lot of inquiry in the past 2 weeks, and we've decided to continue on this conversation. But then today, we're going to actually focus more on the business migration. So what we have today is thank you that we've got Clare, our migration lawyer in Homestates Group here with us. Hello, Clare.
Hello, Nicole. Thank you, Nicole. Hi, everyone.
Yes. We briefly touched on the business migration visa, and then from our understanding, the visa type, we call it like 188. And then it goes into from 188A, 188B, the list going on and on. My understanding is it depends on your personal circumstances, your past experience, business experience in your own country. So what we're going to discuss today, I think, is more focused on 188A. So Claire, would you be able to briefly brief us about what kind of age requirements, what kind of investment amount, and what kind of business background does the applicant have to have?
Yes, Nicole. Like all of us know, 1AA is a business migration visas. It's a business innovations, and they do actually have a few criteria to be satisfied before you can actually submit your application. So for 188, like Nicole has just mentioned, we have A, B, C, D, and E, and a few of those do have very common requirements, which is you need to be 55 years and below, and you need to meet point tests at least of 65 for class A and B. And particularly for class A, 1AA, they do have other requirements like business ownership. So you must own a business for 2 out of the 4 fiscal year. Your business had at least 500,000 turnover. With respect to business ownership, you must own at least 51% if your business turnover is less than $400,000. And however, if your business turnover is more than $400,000, then your ownership is reduced to 30%. And the last category would be you must own, if your business is a listed company, then you must own at least 10% of the business.
So the more the turnover, so this is an Australian dollar equivalent. So the more the turnover equivalence, then your ownership in the business can be reduced less. I see.
And in addition to business ownerships and experience, there's also a requirement with respect to business and personal assets. We are talking about net asset that you can liquidate once your visa is being granted, and then you can transfer over to Australia within 2 years' time. So for subclass 1AA, you or N or your spouse business and personal net assets is no less than $800,000.
Oh, 800 Australian dollars.
Yes.
I see. So in essence, if somebody are considering business migration, and these are all the requirements, are more like an eligibility, whether you're able to fit into subclass A or not. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, it's okay. So it's been granted the visa. So they will be holding a temporary visa.
So, yes. So 188 is actually a temporary visa. So we do have we call this 2-stage visa pathways. So you will granted a temporary visa first. For subclass 1AA, you will be granted up to 4 years and 3 months visa. So you can travel in and out from Australia within this time period. So if you, within the 4 years and 3 months, you satisfy their permanent residencies criteria, you may proceed to apply for 888A visa, which is a permanent residency visa.
It's very interesting with all these visa class numbers, 1AA. And then you've got the permanent residency is 888. It's really a tongue rolling scenario right here.
Yes.
Especially you've got the subclass A, B, C, D.
Yes.
Okay, I got it. Right. So tell me a little bit more about. So let's say they are eligible. They're already here. They've been granted up to 4 years and 3 months of TR, temporary visa.
Yes.
So then, what kind of requirement do they have to fulfill to be able to go into and then apply for, be eligible again to apply for the 888 permanent residency.
Like I mentioned earlier on, you are granted 4 years and 3 months temporary visas. So within this time frame, the objective of this subclass is for you to purchase a business or to start your own business in Australia once you were granted the visa. So within 4 years and 3 months, if you can set aside in the last 2 years before you apply for your PR status, you must have business ownership in Australia. So you must have direct and continuous day-to-day operations, manage the business. Yeah, and thirdly is you must submit your business activity statements. These statements will show your business transactions showing that you are actually operating a business in Australia. And then lastly, you must have an Australian business number. So this is pretty much easy to satisfy because having a business,
that's the basic requirement.
Yes, exactly. And on top of that, your business ownerships, just like I mentioned before, if your business turnover is less than $400,000 per year, you must own at least 51% of the business. But if your business is more than $400,000 per year, then you will need to own the business at least 30%. So if it's a public listed company, then it's 10%.
Oh, same as well.
Yeah,
very
same
similar.
as well.
And
on top of that, your business turnover must be at least $300,000 in the 12 months immediately before you apply. And of course, there's the asset requirements where before you need to have your net assets of at least $800,000 for you to transfer over to Australia within 2 years. So with this money, $800,000, the $200,000 is for you to invest in the business. So the business must cost at least $200,000. So the balance of $600,000 you can just spread it out to property. Yes, as long as you bring the assets into Australia, and then you can satisfy that the government that you actually have the transaction records that you bring the money into Australia.
All right. So on this note, we get a lot of different people asking about different kind of business, which state to apply for. There's few aspects that people look into: the weather, cost of living, education. But obviously, they're also different people. Now, on the migration side of the things, state by state, is there a difference in eligibility or requirements?
Yes, you're right. So there is some difference in terms of states' requirements. Let me go back all the way to the applications process. So before you can apply for 188 visa, you need to nominate it by the state government or territory government. So that's the first step. Once you are being nominated, you have 60 days to submit your application to the Australian government immigration department. So which means that you need to satisfy the state's requirements first, and then to get to be nominated for you to apply to the Australian government. So what I've just mentioned earlier on, the criteria is actually set by the Australian government, the basic requirements. So for each state, they may or may not have their own set of requirements, which is on top of the basic Australian government's requirements. Let's say, for example, I'll take 3 states as a comparison, because these 3 states are the most popular states that people would love to migrate to. The first choice of our clients would be Queensland, because Queensland is just the same as the Australian government's requirements, so there's no additional. But for Sydney, if you plan to migrate to Sydney, the CBD area is not regional, your business turnover must be at least $1 million. Like I said before, it was the Australian government's requirement is actually $500,000, so this is doubled up.
Double, yeah.
So personal net asset, I'm talking about if you wish to migrate to Sydney, your personal asset now has been increased to 1.3 million Aussie dollars, and it's not the $800,000. So that is for Sydney. And for Victoria, for Melbourne, one of the difference would be English. So English is actually not a requirement, like you don't need to attend the IELTS to obtain 5, 6, 7. So there's no English requirements for business visa. You may go for the test so that you get points for that. Otherwise, you get interviewed. If the government thinks that you are not satisfied with the English requirement, you may just need to pay money for the second installment. So that's easy, that's it. But for Victoria, they require you to obtain IELTS for at least 5 score band. So English is actually a requirement. Yes, correct. And on top of the English requirement, they do also require education background or business background of at least 3 years business experience. So all this miscellaneous.
So I'm curious just to understand, right? So it seems like every state have a different variable here, and also at the point of consultation, understanding where your business background is also important. So what is the whole process? Like if I'm interested to know about what class of business migration that we as a family is eligible, and then how do we go about? What is the process?
First thing first, consultation.
Of course.
Yes. So you can make a consultation appointment with us or our professionals. We will look at your backgrounds, whatever requirements that we need, and your documentations, and we'll give you options of which category of visas that you are eligible to apply. So
I understand.
Then we can work from there on to collect documentations from you, submit applications.
I see. So, but then usually when people asking inquiries, it's very interesting. I know everyone's all busy these days, but migration and relocating to the whole family, it's different to maybe buying just something, huh? Yeah. So, number one few questions that we get on this arena is people often say, number one, how much does it cost altogether? Number two, how long will this take? And number three, is this definitely going to happen, or is this definitely a for sure thing? So what's the usual timing that you know?
Each and every one is different, so the circumstances will be different, and each and everyone would have a different documentations. It depends on what you have. For a very basic case, it's pretty easy, but for a complicated matters, there are more documentations to be vetted and stuff like that, and access. We may need more time to do so. And it also depends on the state's government applications when they open for applications and stuff like that.
On this note, talking about open or closing or what have you that we always listen to, like people may say, right? Now, in this case, at the moment, we all know that the international flights are still not being resumed yet for Australia. Now, a lot of people are consulting and asking, well, is now a good time? I guess it's always a good time, but I guess our question is, since international flight has not resumed yet, do we apply first, or what do we do?
Let's say, for example, in Queensland, the government has not opened. They are going to, but we are not quite sure when they announce it will be instantaneously. So you have a very short period of time to submit your application. My suggestion would be start now whenever you're ready. When you're ready, just start the application process, because for business visas, you actually need to produce quite a number of documentations to be vetted. So it's good to have application ready. So the minute the government opens the door, we will submit the application. So you are basically quite ahead of the line. Because why the government closed for application for nominations, I think one of the reasons was because too many backlogs, too many people apply for business visas. That's why they need to clear whatever business visas being submitted earlier on. So once they almost or close to vet through the previous applications, then they can start open the door for you to submit applications. So the minute they open the doors, and then we have document ready to submit the applications, I think that's the you have
way.
a better chance to
for sure. Okay, now I on this case, right, I've just got a case study I really like to share, and it's about this mature couple. So I think this kind of case it does happen. So like mature couple, they study here. The husband is studying here, and then the wife obviously is on a spouse visa to come together. And basically, she have more free time. And during this stay here, she started to working part-time in one of the business they don't own. But then obviously they grow in love with Australia, and then the wife and the husband decided to then invest into that business. And then slowly, bit by bit, not only she works there on part-time, then she becomes more of, not full-time, but then almost like at that capacity, and then she also owns the equity, the share of the business. At the end of their student visa about to expire, unfortunately, because the husband is already over 55, so the skill migration is it's already out of that question. So the way they decided to stay is then the wife, and then they changed their status and apply into a 188A subclass A. So that this is doable, right?
Yes, it is. I remember that couple, that lovely couple that who we had conversation some time ago. They based on my memory, they did master by research. So just bear in mind that for student visas, and if you are on student visa, you bring your family in, you do have work conditions. So they did master by research, so work rights is different. And they started a business. By the time their student visas was about to expire, the business actually, they came to see us. Then we were looking at the business documentation and stuff like that. They actually can apply for a 188A visas because they satisfy all the basic requirements and criteria of that visa. And at the same time, it was then the state nomination is actually open for application, so which is good.
So I basically, I think what they were was, I think when they had the consultant first, and then realizing the husband is probably going to be the skilled migration.
No, it was the wife as a primary applicant.
That's right. So then they decided, okay, we'll study first. So I think as a summary, right, I think that scenario in particular is that, so not only that you're already here, you already collected local working experience, which this goes to the points as well. And also, and most importantly, the wife has already created a local credit history where she's been working here, and then already comply with what Claire was saying before about, every 3 months, every quarter we do a business activity statement. So they already understand all and tick all the boxes. So I think this is a really good avenue. Do you have other cases similar like these?
Yes, I do have a client, European, so he's originally from Europe.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting case too.
Right? Yes. He is in his 40s, so he's a very successful businessman in his own country. So he decided to take a year of sabbatical leave to come to Australia and study. So she started with English course for 1 year, and later on when he landed Australia, he realized that Australia is actually a place that I can bring my business over and start my business here. So that's when he decided to start his business, not knowingly that he can actually apply for 188A. So we had the chance to sit down together and have a chat about it. So he managed to get his business visa here. 188A.
That's interesting.
And also he managed to expand his business from Europe to Australia.
Yeah, that is great.
That is,
so then, coming back to almost the end of the discussion here today, if it's as simple as what it seems ABC in following the steps, how could we, and often hear all these disaster where migration cases sort of went pear-shaped, how would that happen?
There are many cases where people lose their money because the migration agent or consultant they went to was a fraud. So recently we do have a case in Perth. A migration agent actually eat up the client's money, a lot of money, and then she give fake passport. This is actually a criminal in Australia. Definitely. And she was went to jail. Not only that she went to jail, she should be, but the poor thing was her clients lose their time, maybe 1-2 years, and also lose their money in that 1-2 years.
It's very critical because some of the client may be in their 50s.
Yeah, and maybe I'm 53, so I may be eligible to apply, but now my case is gone. It's gone, and then I'm now 55. I can't apply.
So explain to me, because Claire, we know that in migration, like in the laws and the eyes of law, like Australia, honestly, we've been here for a long time and run our business and everything. Everything we do is being looked after. It's being audited, and all these requirements are very stringent as well. And I don't know, explain to me. So you've got migration lawyer, and then you also have so-called a migration agent, and then sometimes you go overseas or you go to some other places, you've got people that call themselves, we can do migration consultation, but then I don't see people all having a certification of some sort. So
for migration agents, to practice in Australia, you need to be registered with MARA. So you are being heavily regulated by MARA. So you just need to renew your license and stuff like that. The process is really, really stringent, and you just need to adhere to the law and regulations. For overseas, not based in Australia, agents, migration agents, some may not be registered, and MARA doesn't have authority to actually regulate them. So that is a difference. Yes.
So I think it's something that everyone have to be aware of. It's just like going to see a doctor or having an operation, but then it's not a doctor operating. So that will be
So you need to be more careful about that. So before you engage a agent, maybe you can go on to MARA website and check whether my agent is registered or not.
So you were just saying before that all the time, because as a migration lawyer in Australia, because the migration law and policy changes all the time. So I guess being a migration lawyer, you always not only auditor, you get all this first-hand information, and then you also have to attend ongoing courses as well to get yourself paired up with all this information.
That's right.
Now I'm sure that Claire's got something in advance they'd like to share with us about this time in the July, that there's certain things going to change so that we could actually act now. So what are the changes,
There was an announcement last year in December, effective July. Some of the criteria, like I just mentioned prior, may have some changes. They are going to change. Let's say, for example, the class itself. So we do have 188 A, B, C, D, E. So 132 is gone. 188D is gone. So the rest will still remains, but the criteria will be slightly different. Let's say, for example, one of those was personal assets. Personal net assets now, effective July, will be increased to 1.25 million Australian dollars from $800,000. So this is one of the changes.
Well, honestly, I think if you are considering and understanding that there is a consultation period, could be a meeting, could be 2 meetings, and then we need to give a recommendation. You need to then collect your document, and this is where things could drag on a little bit longer. So I think if you're interested, now is the time to inquire with us. This comes to the sort of the end of our interview today. Now, if you are watching this through our app, please inquire. There's an icon you can then inquire through, directly DM us, and then Claire will be in contact with you. We're able to set up a Zoom meeting or go to meeting and Google Meeting if we have to do a consultation remotely. And you're thinking this is great information, may not be all the depth that we like to go into because everyone's situation is different, but you're thinking your friends should know and should listen to it. Please help us to share this video onto your Facebook as well. If you have any feedback or any questions that you have a specific case that you'd like us to discuss, also DM us and let us know, that we could discuss, including our conversation next week. Okay, we would like to say thank you to Claire for her time today.
Thank you, Nicole.
And we'll see you next time. Thank you for your time. Bye.
See you next time. Thank you.